Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon, people in the Eastern Partnership region. My name is Mariam SULASHVILI, and I will be today moderating the policy conference related to inclusion and diversity within Erasmus Plus program. I'm for those who don't know me, because we have a lot of guests from other countries other than Georgia. I'm the coordinator for the National Erasmus Plus Office in Georgia, and we've been thinking about organizing this conference for quite some time because we've noticed there is a huge interest and importance for this topic to discuss further along with our colleagues with program countries. And fortunately, we made this happen today. And I would like to ask our colleagues to run the presentation, please. Before that, before we will share the presentation with you, I also want to mention very briefly what we are planning today to give you the general idea how this event will be conducted. In the first part, we have 3 sessions. In the first session, we have speakers invited from National Erasmus Plus agencies, national agencies, so to speak, from Spain and Lithuania. And in the second session, we have a speaker from the national agency from Germany. And in the third session, we will have speakers from other Region 2 countries from the neighborhood East, and National Erasmus Plus offices and their coordinators will be providing the updates about the inclusion and diversity within national context. And we think this is utterly important because inclusion and diversity is implemented by program countries and partner countries, so to speak, equally. So everybody is responsible for quality projects in the end. Why this idea and this topic is very important? Because I assume that the majority of today's attendees are beneficiaries of the Erasmus Plus program, which means that you are already familiar that Erasmus Plus program is based on 4 fundamental pillars, and Erasmus Plus program has 4 priorities. Which means that every single project somehow has to be connected to one of the priority. So as you see and as you know, inclusion and diversity is one of the top pillars for the Erasmus Plus program. And I would say that this is not only priority for the Erasmus Plus program, especially because inclusion and diversity is a fundamental concept like human rights. Therefore, well understanding the inclusion and diversity within Erasmus Plus program means that you can easily deploy that knowledge in every other program or project, or whether you are conducting individual formal or informal projects. So that's a good opportunity to learn more and learn better. Initially, we all understand what is inclusion and diversity, but when it comes to integrating that idea within projects, whether mobility or collaborative projects, that can be challenging, and we know that it is challenging. I mean, it is somewhat a creative process. What can I write in the Erasmus Plus project proposals when there is a question how you are covering inclusion and diversity, whether it's mobility or collaborative projects. Therefore, understanding this concept and providing you information and providing you the perspectives of the national agencies, because national agencies are implementing Erasmus Plus programs in their national context, and they are responsible for decentralized actions. and therefore this is a 50-50 distribution of projects within Erasmus Plus program. As you know, within Erasmus Plus program, we have around 30 different projects, programs, sub-programs. Some of them are centralized, some of them are decentralized. And in addition to centralized actions, it is utterly important how national agencies are understanding how they monitor and what are their expectations when Erasmus Plus projects are implemented by the beneficiaries. Of course, when we are interested to learn more information about Erasmus Plus program, first thing we do is to open up the Erasmus program guide. And Erasmus program guide somewhat describes what is inclusivity and inclusion and diversity within Erasmus Plus program. But in that guide, you will find the Commission implementing decision, which defines the framework of how inclusion and diversity has to be understood and implemented, whether in decentralized or centralized actions, and how beneficiaries are expected to implement inclusion and integrate inclusion within their projects. This link is provided in our presentation, and also you can very well find this link and document in the Erasmus program guide itself, the newest, which we have available. And that Commission framework, in that document, you read, one of the line reads, quality projects that actively address inclusion and diversity and that involve participation with fewer opportunities may be given the priority in the grant awarding process. Well, of course, it does not necessarily mean that every single project has to be about inclusion and diversity. Of course not. You should not do that. Otherwise, there will be a huge competitiveness problem. But every single project, whether it's mobility, whether it's, I don't know, capacity building related, whether it's Jean Monnet, etc., you have to be somewhat thinking about how you can integrate, what good practice you can implement in your project within the Erasmus Plus program, and not only. But we are here due to Erasmus Plus program, so we are focusing on that today. There are provided several documents which I want to share with you. Later you will have, of course, links to dive deep into those documents. But according to the Erasmus program guide, there has been given the Commission framework, which we've already covered. Then you have strategy for Erasmus Plus program and for European Solidarity Corps, how inclusion and diversity is implemented within the project. And there are other guidelines, for example, guideline for international credit mobility, which also describes how inclusion has to be respected within Erasmus Plus program. Also, the above-mentioned Commission framework also says that even though the inclusion and diversity principles are common and universal, in the national context, there might be different documents that tries to raise awareness about inclusion and diversity, how in a national context it is seen to implement inclusion and diversity. Therefore, I would encourage you, everyone, to check out your national contexts as well, because the Commission framework says that when those documents are different, for example, Commission operates certain bunch of documents and monitors and tries to implement inclusion in a certain way. And in a country, there is a strategy document respecting and regarding the inclusion document, then those documents in a project has to be complementary in a nature. So they should complement one another. So I would encourage everyone, in this link we have, on this page we have given the publicly available link, which is available in Georgia. It's called Inclusion G. So you can check out every document available in this field. Also, this particular link, which I've put on our slide is about inclusion and diversity in the education sector. I am sure in every country, whether it's Georgia, Armenia, Azerbaijan, Ukraine, etc., every country has their own strategy document, and you can check out them because those documents are publicly available. You just need to Google it, and you need to get aware of them. I would like to invite right now the EU delegation representative program officer from the European Union delegation in Georgia, Mrs. Nika KOCHISHVILI. Nika, can you join us?
Yes, finally I managed. Thank you, Mariam, and let me welcome participants of this online policy dialogue conference. Indeed, inclusivity and accessibility is one of the priority, and it is a cross-sectoral approach that we are applying to each and every action, larger scale or a smaller scale in our partner countries. And when we speak about Erasmus Plus and those vulnerable groups that might be eligible, but due to certain circumstances cannot get necessary support in starting getting benefit from this program, it becomes even more important to have such discussion, how in practical terms make inclusivity, because inclusivity, equity are the words that you may hear on daily basis, but not really thinking and realizing how it can be applied or done through the projects. Such kind of where you can discuss exchange of experience, not only with one country, but several country representatives, especially those that are already the agencies, the national agency, and how do they do it and how it happens in other countries would be for you, I'm sure, in Eastern Partnership countries, even more interesting, let's say, topic for practical exchanges and some ideas that you will then realize in your projects and actions. So with this, let me congratulate you with such interesting event that you have ahead for upcoming hours. And please do your best to use it as much as possible. Don't hesitate to ask questions. Even sometimes we say, I'm sorry for the stupid question. There are no stupid questions, believe me. Whatever question you have, please do not hesitate but raise. And then you will see that those questions are very valid and relevant when we speak about inclusivity and accessibility. So thank you, and I wish you very constructive, very interesting and informative event, even if it is online. Thank you.
I indeed agree that we will welcome all sorts of questions, whatever helps you to clarify the concept and better understand it and better implement in your practice. The questions are welcomed. We will have the dedicated section for question and answers. And like Nika mentioned, indeed, understanding inclusion and diversity, not only in the program countries, but also in our region, in Azerbaijan, Armenia, Ukraine, and Moldova. This is very important because in collaborative projects, we not only collaborating with program countries and EU countries, but also we need to integrate them in our consortiums within the Erasmus Plus program. Therefore, it is very important that we understand these topics and we have good understanding, all of us. So that's really very nice of you that other colleagues from other countries from our Eastern Partnership regions are joining us today. Now I would like to ask Mariam to provide the some details, statistical details to understand why it is relevant to speak more about inclusion and diversity.
Thank you, Mariam. As we continue, I'll just briefly introduce myself. I'm Mariam BUTKHUZI. I'm a project officer here at the National Erasmus Plus Office in Georgia. Good morning and good afternoon, depending on where you're located. And as we continue our discussion regarding the inclusivity and accessible Erasmus Plus actions, it is important to see where we actually stand and what bases or grounds we actually have to be speaking about inclusivity and accessibility. So you can see here on the screen, current situation. It shows us, Eastern Partnership countries, including Armenia, Azerbaijan, Georgia, Moldova, and Ukraine, and our projects with partner countries. But in this particular case, Spain, Germany, and Lithuania, our national agency colleagues are here also. So we will be focusing on these three countries and these three national agencies. And you can see, I will not go into details, this will be shared later on, but there is Key Action 1 separately and also Key Action 2 collaborative projects. These are aggregated statistics. Basically, in Key Action 1, it can be anything, higher education exchanges or international credit mobility or short-term mobilities, and same applies to Key Action 2 collaborative projects. It can be capacity building, cooperation partnerships, etc. And we can see the trends there and the numbers, and that we are putting Eastern Partnership is cooperating with these three countries. And then the next one is a little specific since, well, Georgia, Georgian part in Key Action 1 projects. We just split this information in a 131 and 171 projects. Between those projects, just this focus only, because we excluded the other mobility information. We can see that 131 is more popular internal funds, and then 171 is also popular but less than 131. And you can see the numbers here. With Spain, we have over almost, 900 mobility projects. For Germany, it's almost 1,300, and for Lithuania, it's 980 projects. And then we also have here graphs, information about how Georgia looks and what we are participating in basically in Key Action 2 projects. With each country, Spain, Germany, and Lithuania, we can see that mostly it's capacity building projects that are more popular, but also it should be noted that this has been with us for longer periods of time, and then we have some sport actions. We also have cooperation partnership projects. And the last information that we wanted to share with you, it's regarding the mobility. We talked about Key Action 1 and Key Action 2 projects, but what about the mobility itself when students or staff or youth are going on exchanges? This is the mobility statistics with all three countries, Georgia with Spain, Lithuania, and Germany. We can see that Germany has almost, I believe you can see the screen here, and it's almost 5,100, and then we can see with Lithuania it's 2,000 exchanges, and then for Spain it's 3,000. And then depending on the overall mobility, it's not Georgians living country, it's also other countries from Spain and Lithuania and Germany coming in, and we can see that almost I'll just round up the number, 6,200 almost are outbound from Georgia, so basically living students going on mobility, and then we have also incoming almost 4,400 students. This is throughout the 2 program periods, just to leave this little note here. And yeah, I believe these numbers show that there is actually cooperation between us, Eastern Partnership countries and partner countries, and we do have the reasons to be actually discussing the inclusivity and accessibility within Erasmus Plus program today. Thank you very much. This was all from my part.
Thank you, Mariam. Now we would like to share with you the VVOX, some interactive activities. So we will measure the current understanding of the inclusion and diversity within Erasmus Plus program. This will be fun and this will be short. So please take your mobile phones. You will need to scan a code.
I'll share my screen right now. It should be visible. Right at the left corner, you should be able to see the QR code. And also, for those of you who are unable to scan the QR code, please also go to the chat, because I've sent the link, vvox.app, and then the code that you should copy, I'll send them separately as well, so it's easier for you to copy and paste them. And once you go to vvox.app, you can put in this code, the long one that's there, and you should be able to join this.
So you have basically 2 options. Either you can join through scanning the code given in the lower corner corner, or you can just enter the link, the information Mariam sent to you in the chat section.
If you joined already, you will not be able to see anything just yet because we have not started the meeting yet, but I think we can start in a couple of seconds. And once we start this WebEx, you will be able to join us anyway because the QR code does not disappear, and also the ID code and, well, the link also both work.
So we can start, so everyone else can join us throughout the process. And we have first question. Please let us know which country are you from. Just enter Azerbaijan. Very nice. Hello. Georgia, Ukraine, Lithuania, Germany, Spain.
We have some people writing in the chat as well. Georgia, hello, fellow Georgians.
Okay. Sakartvelo. Okay.
We have Armenia also in the chat.
Of course, we have Armenia. There have been
and
many of them registered.
Hello to our neighbors.
Okay, let's move on to the next question.
Okay.
Which sector do you represent? As you know, Erasmus Plus program has several sectors: higher education, vocational education, and training center. Higher education, mostly higher education. Higher education, a lot of higher education, vocational education, training center, college. Okay. By the way, mobility projects in the Erasmus Plus program are relevant. This inclusion and diversity is relevant, and mobility is relevant for vocational education and training sectors as well, because as you know, in our ISNE partnership region 2, our beneficiaries in vocational education and training centers can host representatives and institutions from the program countries and associated countries as staff as well as students. So this mobility and inclusion within mobility is interesting for you. We have school representative as well, which is very nice. Speak up. Would you like us to speak up, to speak louder?
Hello, my name is Mariana. I'm a co-founder of Speak Up, which is supporting persons with disability.
I see.
So I have a child with disability.
Okay.
Here today.
Thank you
I have just a question. I wrote this question in chat. Have you read it?
No, we will have the question and answer session later on after we will finalize our presentations, and we will address those questions later in the question and answer session, if you don't mind. Okay, let's move on to the next question.
The next question should be visible. Okay.
Okay, what is the main objective of the Erasmus Plus inclusion and diversity strategy? To increase the number of Erasmus Plus projects only, to create equitable access to Erasmus Plus opportunities by reducing barriers to participation, to fund research projects exclusively, to support only higher education institutions. What do you think? Which is the correct answer? What is the main objective of inclusion within Erasmus Plus?
I'm not showing the results just yet.
Yeah, okay.
Let's see what people choose without the outside influence. I guess most of them already answered, so I can show.
We have only 20. Let's wait.
Oh.
Please follow. Continue submitting your answer. Okay, to create the equitable access to Erasmus Plus projects to reduce the barriers, of course, reducing the barriers and creating the equitable environment for participants is the main aim of the inclusion strategy. Next question, please.
That was the correct answer, yes. One moment, and okay, here's the next question. It should be visible. Is it visible?
Not yet. Well,
let me see what's the reason.
Do you see a new question which goes, according to the Erasmus Plus inclusion, well, you see now, according to the Erasmus Plus inclusion and diversity strategy, who are considered people with fewer opportunities? Only people with disabilities, people whose participation in Erasmus Plus is limited due to barriers such as disability, health, economic disadvantages, social inclusion, exclusion, discrimination, cultural differences, educational barriers, or geographical isolation. C, only unemployed young people, and D, anyone applying for Erasmus Plus funding for the first time. What do you think, which is the correct answer? Which better describes people with fewer opportunities? We have 22 answers, and according to that 22 answers, the biggest number got B, which goes that every barrier which hinders people to participate within the project and program is considered the barrier, and everything needs to be addressed equally. Thank you for your questions. Do we have more questions?
And we have last one left. You can freely answer here. You can type in the answers.
Oh, well, that's very interesting because that might be some good practice for some institutions. Does your organization have an inclusion strategy in place? Yes. Okay. Okay, we have only 3 answers so far.
We have
Someone said that unfortunately some organizations don't. Some organizations are currently implementing. That's very good that a lot of institutions have documents developed in that area. Some of them, they don't.
There are more answers here.
Some kind of, yes.
Good. Since 2022, as a part of institutional strategy, yes, but imperfectly. Documents related to inclusion, but not a strategy.
Okay, and
That's
some of them, they have that information or guide integrate in the organizational strategy, general strategy. Okay, understood. Okay, very well. Thank you very much for your participation. I guess we and speakers from our program countries have got an idea about your current knowledge and understanding. We want to move on to the section 2, and in that section 2, our first speaker is from Spain, Mrs. Michaela LANARO, Program Coordinator for ICM. I got it mistakenly. Marta GARCIA RODRIGUEZ. I'm sorry, Marta. I misread it in the agenda. Our first speaker is Marta GARCIA RODRIGUEZ from Spain, Inclusion Officer. And Marta will be talking about how do we understand inclusivity within Erasmus Plus program. Marta, please, floor is yours.
I just want to quickly remind you all that we do have a separate session dedicated to especially quick Q&A, question and answers.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Hello?
Hi,
Yes,
Marta,
we do.
Hi.
We can.
Yes, okay. I just was introducing myself, and well, I'm the inclusion officer of the national agency in Spain. And first of all, I would like to thank the colleagues from the NEO in Georgia for giving me the opportunity to participate in this very relevant event and to contribute to reinforce the inclusion and diversity priority within the Erasmus Plus context. And well, I prepare a presentation according to your interests that were expressed in the survey that was delivered to all of you beforehand. And now I will try to share my presentation. Okay. Please.
Marta.
Confirm if you can.
One moment, please. Now you can share with us, Marta.
You see it?
Yes. We see.
Can you see it? Do you see the full screen?
We do.
Okay, now I must go back to the beginning. Sorry for that. Okay, here we are. As I said, I prepared my presentation according to your expectancies showed in the survey. And in this presentation, I will tackle the following topics. First of all, for the conceptual wise, I would speak about inclusion and diversity within Erasmus. Then I would move on to the procedures, such as planning, assessment, and evaluation of ID measures. I would give some examples of inclusive support mechanisms. Then I would go into a couple of good practice experience that have been proved successful within the European projects. And then I would give some figures about what are the mobilities limited to the few opportunity participants with the Eastern Partnership countries. And I would end up with some useful resources on inclusion and diversity if you are interested to go in depth after this event. Well, before I dive into the content of the presentation, I would like to start by illustrating in a very visual way the difference between certain concepts that we commonly use when talking about inclusion. In the first place, as you can see in the picture, reality shows what each one of us experiment in specific situations in life as regards to the access to resources, activities, or even rights. Equality, contrary to what it might seem at first, may trigger adverse effects by giving equal treatment to everyone, but without considering the specific needs. Equity itself is about giving each person what they need in order to ensure equal opportunities. And then we move on to inclusion. At European level, there's a common understanding, and inclusion is defined as the full and fair participation of all people in society, guaranteeing equal opportunities and removing social, economic, political, and cultural barriers. And then we come up to the last concept, so to say, the belonging feeling, the ownership feeling, which is a result of implemented inclusion by which people feel integrated, part of the game, and no one is left behind. So, having set the state of play of inclusion and diversity, we come to the main question on why does inclusion and diversity matters in the Erasmus Plus context. Well, beyond the reasons that already Mariana spoke about in her introductory words about social justice and equal rights, there is a legal obligation to promote the priority on inclusion and diversity. It is a cross-cutting priority for the program 21-27, and it's aimed at promote the objectives of this priority is to promote equal opportunities, remove participant barriers, reach participants with fewer opportunities, which I will present later on, ensure accessibility throughout the project cycle, and create lasting organizational within the institutions and managing Erasmus. The message of this priority is that inclusion is not an additional activity, but it should be embedded in every stage of the project. Here in the left-hand side, I won't stop on these documents because already Mariam presented them. There are legal foundations, the regulation, and the Commission implementation decision about inclusion in the Erasmus Plus project. And on the bottom, we will see you can check the Erasmus and the European strategy for the inclusion priority. Now here we come to the main characters of our story, persons with fewer opportunity. True inclusion begins by recognizing the participants often face barriers which they have trouble to overcome and prevent them from taking part in the Erasmus mobilities or activities. In order to share a common understanding of these participants, the European regulation offers all of us the following definition. These participants are those who, for economic, social, cultural, geographical, health, migrant background, disability, educational difficulties, or any other reason that leads to discrimination, face obstacles that prevent them from having effective access to the opportunities that the Erasmus program offers. In brief, this definition, as you can see, is based on the barriers that any person might face. And to go more in depth on these barriers, this slide tries to illustrate some examples of the barriers and the situations that people might face, and what are some brief examples on what can we consider people of fewer opportunities. For instance, for disabilities, we can consider people with fewer opportunities, those who suffer from physical, mental, or sensory situations, and health conditions. There are included people with severe illnesses and chronic diseases. For economic disadvantage barrier, those people are suffering from low income or even unemployment situation. In geographical isolation, people living in remote, rural, and peripheral areas. Cultural difference, people having migrant background or linguistic barriers. Also people with gender, age, ethnicity, religion, belief, based on discriminated on these issues. And for learning difficulty, we have the for example, early school leavers, or the needs, which are the people which are not in education or training system. And finally, social barriers are focused on those who have specific family circumstances or limited skills. Moving on from the concepts to the procedures, this slide tries to showcase what key steps should be considered when building an inclusive application. It reminds that inclusive planning begins before writing the application. In the first place, we have to identify the targets in our country in relation to the barriers previously mentioned. Second place, we have to consult participants on their needs, keeping in mind that nothing about us meaning fewer opportunities, between brackets, fewer opportunities participants, but without us. On the third point, we have to analyze the outcomes of this previous consultation process, which is identify the barriers. Next, we have to give a proper solution to overcome the identified barriers and adapt the activities of our projects in order to make everyone feel included and no one is left behind. Next, we have to bear in mind that we need to allocate a specific budget to make the adaptation of the activities feasible. Another important point is to prepare and train the staff of our organizations to be able to follow up the implementation of the project. And finally, the outreach, or in other words, the involvement of the people with fewer opportunities, which are sometimes reluctant to participate due to their fears, their insecurity, or even their low self-esteem. In a practical planning framework, this would be the relevant questions to raise in order to ensure an inclusive focus. In the diagnosis, we can ask ourselves who is excluded in our context and why. When drafting the objectives, what would be the barriers that we want to reduce? When reflecting about the activities, are these activities accessible to all the participants in our project? When we speak about mobilities, what adaptations are needed? And for the evaluation, how will we measure the inclusion? And in order to help organizations in this task, I linked here some, in the low part of the slide, some relevant tools which provide support and advice in this sense. The inclusion meter, for example, it's a self-assessment tool helping projects to evaluate the degree of inclusivity of their activities, while the Erasmus Mobility Inclusion Scan helps to reflect in an informal way to which extent the mobilities are inclusive to all. In line with what I previously mentioned, some useful tips for assessors of the application forms would be to look for evidence in terms of intentionality. This meaning that the inclusion aspect goes beyond adding a couple of sentences with inclusive objectives just to comply with the evaluator's checklist. But furthermore, the inclusion perspective must be coherent, transversal, and embedded in all the stages of the project. In addition to this, the proposal must be, of course, realistic, people-centered, adequately resourced, as I mentioned before, and integrated into the project management. If we find all these bullet points in a proposal, it's most likely to have a very strong proposal in terms of inclusivity. Here are some indicators, both indicators, soft indicators, or quantitative and qualitative indicators that you could use in terms of participation, accessibility, engagement, and impact. I'm not going to stop in this slide because I'm running out of time, and I would like to move into the examples of inclusive support mechanisms. These are the most common support mechanisms and offered to help or ease the mobilities of the people with fewer opportunities. In the first line, you can see the inclusion support funding. This is the most popular one, either with top-ups, amounts of money, or real costs covering specific needs of the participants. Then we have the preparatory visits to help the participants, fewer opportunity participants, to become more familiar with the destination environment, anticipate possible obstacles that they would face. Additional travel support, for instance, wheelchairs or refrigerators that they must transport to keep their medicines on a safe temperature. Accompanying persons, it's also very common, at least in Spain, we have a lot of claims with we're asking for more budget for accompanying persons for those people with severe disabilities that needs support 24/7 on a daily basis. Accessible accommodation to language preparation, mentoring and coaching and psychological support maybe, and flexible mobility formats, the so-called BIPs, the blended mobilities, which make possible to some participants, as we will see later in the video, to make part of the Erasmus mobilities. Moving on to the good practice example from a wide range of success stories collected in the Salto website, which I will show you later, I choose an extract of the most representative of some of the sectors. First, one from a vocational school that shows how planning a project with the participants instead of for participants, remember the slogan, nothing without us, participants improve their satisfaction of ownership and ownership feeling. The second example from the consortium put the focus in simplifying the administrative language in an easy to read way of the application for participants and even the information that was stated in the web. So they could experiment, therefore by using this focused, easy to read focus, they were able to have a higher recruitment of peer opportunities participants. As for the flexible mobilities, there's a very good example offered addressed to parents with young with young children from the Austrian National Agency to make it easier for them or in order to manage a work-life balance and participate in the Erasmus experience. If I still have time at the end of the presentation, I will try to play the video for you. It's only 3 minutes long.
Of course, we can. We stole some time from you, so we will give you additional minutes.
Okay, thank you so much. The fourth example would be the school staff participating in Erasmus mobilities with our European schools having a good and high level of expertise in order to improve the learning system and adequate it to their own pupils with specific learning needs because they were coming from migrant and refugees backgrounds. And the fifth one, it's about cooperation of association project, which created a very useful methodological tool, which is called the EASIT, Easy Access to Social Inclusion training, in order to address a wide range of participants. This tool includes some videos, and they were videos and other documentation very accessible to people, and these were validated by the persons with cognitive disabilities. And now moving on to the figures and complementary to the numbers that Marian gave us at the beginning. Here you have some data from the Spanish implementation regarding higher education sector mobilities with the Eastern partner countries. The first image shows the percentage of the top mobilities of the mobilities of the Eastern countries out of the total of mobilities from all the European Erasmus countries. And it doesn't reach, as you see, it doesn't reach the 1%, but it's already nice to see that people with fewer opportunities are involved in the mobilities. And the two images below, there you can see all the data disaggregated by outgoing mobilities for all the current period, and also disaggregated by key actions 131, and 171. In the outgoing data, in the outgoing mobilities, you can see there's only, of all the Eastern Partnership countries, there's only 8 mobilities related to fewer opportunities participants. And for the incoming, there is slightly more than 800 mobilities in total for all the countries. And if we sum up the outgoing and the incoming mobilities, you can see that Ukraine has the biggest number of mobilities, both incoming and outgoing. But the reason behind this is very simple, is because all the participants coming from Ukraine are considered fewer opportunities participants themselves. So that's why they have so high numbers. And then it's followed by Georgia with 38 mobilities, and then by Armenia with 19 mobilities. So it's already a good news that people with fewer opportunities are having mobilities, however, with the Spanish institutions. And last but not least, I would like to present you the website of the Salto Inclusion. Salto Inclusion is a support center organization across Europe that provides resources and training to European Erasmus Plus stakeholders in order to reinforce the implementation of inclusion-minded projects and activities. In particular, the section presented in the slide, resources, contains publications, reports, guidelines, tools, elaborated with relevant and very inspiring information for NAs and beneficiaries. And this information is continuously updated. So I really strongly encourage you to take a look if you have the interest, to explore, go in depth if you want to know more about inclusion. And of course, there you can find much more success stories which will inspire in your own implementation projects. Thanks for your attention, and I'm ready for your questions when the time comes.
Thank you very much,
now
Marta.
I'm going to try. You're welcome. I'm going to try to play the video of the higher education sector, which it would take only 3 minutes. And if not,
I have it on standby as
Mariam,
well.
you have it instead. Okay. Thank you very much.
Most people dream of traveling, experiencing different cultures, and expanding their professional and personal horizons. But what if responsibilities and life circumstances make a longer leave impossible? That's where the Erasmus Plus program and its short-term mobility opportunities for higher education students step in, breaking down barriers to international learning and offering a chance to experience the world and grow, both professionally and personally. One such story is Rahel Yangels, a mother of 2 young children and a health and nursing student at FHUNM University of Applied Sciences, who embarked on a short-term traineeship at a clinic in Tanzania. Rahel's days began bright and early in a clinic combining Western medicine with natural healing methods. She expanded her expertise across various departments, from wound care to gynecology and neonatology. As part of the clinic's outreach program, Rahel joined doctors and nurses in visiting Maasai villages and schools, working to educate and encourage people to seek medical care at the clinic. These experiences broadened her professional skills and deepened her understanding of cultural diversity and inclusivity. In Rahel's own words, laughter, joy for life, modesty, light, air, and love characterize Tanzania, and I feel like I am right in the middle of it all. But her journey didn't end there. The Erasmus Plus program offers the option of a virtual mobility component, allowing participants to engage remotely before and after their traineeship. This digital element provides flexible access, strengthens digital skills, and fosters intercultural exchange, creating a truly inclusive learning environment. By welcoming participants from diverse backgrounds, the Erasmus Plus program provided flexibility for those with fewer opportunities. And for this 43-year-old mother of 2, the impact was profound. Her time in Tanzania offered a unique opportunity to deepen her understanding of cultural sensitivity and resilience in healthcare, while also connecting with local communities and contributing to their health awareness and education. Salto Resource Center for Inclusion and Diversity in Education and Training encourages education organizations to include people with fewer opportunities in Erasmus Plus projects and help build a world that's more open, empathetic, and interconnected. So, is your organization ready to embark on this journey?
Thank you very much, Marta, for sharing the presentation and for sharing the video. As you will see, I would like to tell our beneficiaries that, as you say, the mobility in integrating inclusion and diversity is not as big in numbers as generally mobility is. And oftentimes we know that people do not identify themselves as people with limited abilities or people who need extra care. So it needs a very, in positive terms, aggressive campaign that it is okay to identify yourself as people with disability or someone with special needs, because that can be addressed within Erasmus Plus program. And as Marta mentioned, inclusion is not a light topic, especially for those institutions who are participating in EU-funded projects. Like, you need a whole series of strategy, how you are identifying those people, what strategy do you have to select them, how do you communicate with them, whether online or face-to-face, how do you monitor implementation, and how you share and disseminate that information. You need a whole strategy. That's a very serious topic. It takes a lot of work, and I believe knowing these best practices and experience can be very encouraging for all the Erasmus Plus beneficiaries to work more and better on the inclusion and diversity topic. Thank you again very much, Marta. And right now, I'd like to invite Inesa LACUK, project manager from Lithuanian NA, who will be talking about monitoring and assessing inclusivity during implementation. how inclusivity is tracked, and what NAs observed during and after implementation. I would like to invite remind our listeners and attendees that as you know, inclusion part, even within the mobility projects, are monitored and checked by the NAs. That's true that they are checking their own institutions within their national context, but you, as a representatives from the partner countries, are equal implementers of those projects. So you are equally responsible to have a proper inclusion and diversity strategy within your project and to consider all those requirements. So Inesa will be talking about this more, so you will have an opportunity to learn more what is expected from NA's perspective. Inesa, please.
Thank you, Mariam. Thank you so much for the invitation. I really hope that you can hear me well.
We can hear you.
Now I'll try to share my presentation.
I think we have to put down our presentation and yeah.
And let's try. So meanwhile, I really want to thank also my colleague from Spanish NA for a very interesting presentation, for a really good intro into this topic. And I think many things you have already mentioned. So I will skip few parts from my presentation, but now I need to open it and it takes a little bit of time.
It's okay.
It is really great that you gathered all people here, because when it was 2021, we really struggled and we didn't know from what to start, and such event would help us a lot. So many years passed already, and today I will try to share what Lithuanian institutions and what our NA did. Let's try if you can see it. Okay, can you see the presentation?
It's just starting on.
Okay. Everything should be fine. Can you see now?
Show my screen anyway. I think you have to click on that because it asks that you're sharing and if you're okay to share, I guess.
Okay, and now?
You probably have to go to the presentation page to be able to, for us to be able to see it.
Okay, let's try once again, because everything was fine in the beginning and now I'm not sure why.
It always happens. You can try the tab if you don't mind.
Yeah, I tried. You can see my screen now, I think.
We can.
If you wish, I can
Yeah,
share it from my end.
No problem. Somehow, I
well,
think
we see it now. We see it now.
Yeah,
Okay,
I had
good.
to click few times more than I expected. Sorry.
It's okay.
For taking some part, but as I mentioned, thanks to my colleague from Spanish NA, I can skip some parts from my presentation. So I also prepared some, let's say, basic information for you, but as many things were mentioned by Mariam, by my colleague from Spanish NA, I will simply skip it. But if you decide to review my presentation, then you will have all the necessary information here and all the links that are really probably beneficial for those who would like to learn and know more. So I won't elaborate more because you already know what is inclusion and diversity. I will more focus on practical parts. So let's skip this. So let's see how is everything in Lithuania. How do we implement this priority? And I will more focus on ICM projects as I'm working with those projects. So it was easier for me to prepare presentation, and I will show the way how Lithuanian institutions were working on implementation of this priority. So as my colleague from Spanish NA already mentioned, there are two ways for additional funding for incoming participants. So specifically speaking about ICM projects, so there are two main financial ways how to get additional funding. So top-ups and costs which can be financed based on real costs. So top-ups are being allocated only for students. So in ICM projects, European partners, when submitting the application, they are requesting and indicating how many mobilities with top-ups they would love to implement. And later on the funds allocation phase, we NAs, based on the qualitative results of the applications, we are allocating and deciding which mobilities with top-ups will be funded. So it works like that in ICM projects. Though also students can get additional support besides top-up or with top-up based on real costs, and top-ups can be paid for long-term mobility and also for short-term mobility, and you can see the amounts here. And now let's speak more about the top-ups. So top-up is allocated for special defined groups of people. So for those target groups which were mentioned already today, of participants with fewer opportunities. So only for those groups of people which are already should be identified in advance, and the required documents should be submitted and selected according to the strategy of the institution. And as I mentioned, top-up can be paid only for students and recent graduates. So staff is not eligible for this kind of funding. It is really important to mention that. And also we see that sometimes it is not clear if zero grant mobility student can be a participant with fewer opportunities. So it is not possible to flag this mobility. So zero grant Erasmus mobility participant cannot be participant with fewer opportunities. But in case of partial grant, it is possible to fund, to allocate top-up for the period which is granted. Then let's move on. Speaking about the Lithuania, we do not have our national strategy. I'm speaking about country-wise, like national-wise strategy. So it was really difficult for us in the beginning of program period, this program period, as we didn't have any national document indicating the target groups which could be applicable for participants with fewer opportunities. So what we did, we decided that we as a national agency, we have to create our own document which will include those specific target groups of participants with fewer opportunities. So currently we still have this document, and in that document we have included those groups, and also we recommended to all our higher education institutions to set up the internal selection procedures and to identify those target groups. So it means that each higher education institution in Lithuania has its own document in which they have included target groups. Those target groups are really different. So for example, in our national agency's document, we have included target groups from the Erasmus Programme Guide and also from our national document, which is the development priorities for the social dimension. So basically, these two big groups are included in our national document. But speaking about the higher education institutions, they have a right to include their own groups. So I will show you later on the example of the groups which are included in one of higher education in Lithuania. But what I wanted to stress on that each higher education institution in Lithuania has a right to include any target group which they think that should be included. So they have really a huge freedom to decide according to their needs. And we still don't have a national strategy. It is not prepared yet. So we use our own internal document, which was prepared by our national agency. Then second possibility to get additional support for students with fewer opportunities, and not only students, but also for staff, incoming and outgoing. It is additional support based on real cost. And for our institutions, and I guess for many of you as well, it is a huge question which expenses can be covered with these real costs. So I'll show you some examples, but what you should remember that learners, so students and staff, are eligible to receive an additional support based on real costs. And in the Lithuanian context, we always ask our institutions if they identify such person which needs additional support based on real cost to submit a special application form 1 month before mobility starts. And then in our national agency, we continue with an evaluation process and we allocate funds based on real costs. So if you are interested to see how that application form looks like, you are more than welcome to visit our webpage and find all the information about the procedure and take a look on the application. So which expenses can be allocated based on real costs? So my colleague already mentioned. So you can see on this slide, and there are also expenses which are not eligible for additional funding. So daily expenses, because they can be covered by the scholarship which is received. Standard travel expenses, living expenses, and expenses covered by the top-up. But for example, if a student or a staff member needs a translator, like sign language translator, he or she can apply and get funding for that. More examples will follow. So now let's see some trends and figures and some examples. So let's dive into the practical matters more. So in Lithuania, you can see the statistics regarding the additional funding for real costs since the beginning of this program period. So here in this slide, you can see statistics from both actions, intra-European mobility and also ICM. And unfortunately, we received in ICM only 2 applications which with expenses which can be covered by the real costs. So in 2023 and 2024. But still, it is a beginning. So probably the institutions are more and more aware that such possibility exists. And I hope that we will see more examples. So I'd like to elaborate more how practically looked those mobilities. So first mobility, which was implemented in 2023, was a student mobility from Africa, and additional expenses were allocated for that student because student needed some additional help with traveling from the dormitory to the institution, and also a person who helped him during his stay in Lithuania. The second case was with the Lithuanian professor who needed a special assistance, and she went to Western Balkans region. So we also supported additionally, and some funds were allocated. I hope that we'll receive more applications as it really helps to be more inclusive for Erasmus Plus program, and it helps participants to feel better during the exchange period. Okay, some more statistics, same numbers, but different perspective. Here you can see according to the staff or student mobility. So we started receiving applications only to support student mobilities based on real cost, because somehow institutions imagine that staff members cannot get such kind of support. But I'd like to stress once again that both incoming and outgoing staff members are eligible for that kind of expenses to be covered based on real costs. And now, as I promised, here are the examples, real examples by our national agency. So here you can see which exact expenses were covered based on real costs. So special transport, living and traveling expenses for accompanying person, a medical document translation service, rental of housing adapted to the needs of the participants, and different. As you see, there are many different aspects which can be covered based on real costs, and sometimes a student need or a staff member needs such support, but he or she doesn't know, even the institution, that it can be covered. So therefore, I really wanted to share with you really practical cases of the ways what was financed here. What else? Also, some numbers related to ICM with the projects which already finished, so projects on 2022. As you can see here, statistical data of the students' participation and staff participation in that call, and how many of them were fewer opportunities. And here particularly, you can see a number of participants from Ukraine, and my colleague from Spain explained why the numbers are high. Unfortunately, we know why it is so. And here in Lithuania, you see that all staff members who came to Lithuania from Ukraine, they were included into the group of people with fewer opportunities, the same with the students, but students were able to receive top-up. Also, probably one of the last slides I have here on this slide, you can see a statistic from ICM awarded and implemented learner mobilities. As I mentioned in the beginning of my presentation, in ICM, there is an exact number of mobilities with the top-up, which are allocated in the project. So in total, in 2022, we allocated 99 mobilities with top-ups, but unfortunately, only 67 were implemented. And soon we will have projects of 2023 finishing. So we see that we won't reach the number of mobilities which we had. So there will be less, I guess only 80 mobilities will be out of 151. And there are many reasons behind. We always communicate with our institutions. So they say that in general, how the program, how the action is created, it is in a wrong way, because our institutions are planning everything much in advance, and it is really difficult to plan a mobility with top-up with some particular country, institution, and mobility type. So therefore, it is really difficult for them. And also, in general, they see some struggles in understanding how to use top-ups, how to explain it to the partners, how to explain to the colleagues working at the same institution. So it is kind of difficult. And as my colleagues asked to present some statistical data with Ukraine, Azerbaijan, Armenia, Georgia, and Moldova. Here on the left side, you can see how many mobilities with particular countries were in each call. So just an example from 2022, out of 67 implemented top-up mobilities, 43 of them were allocated to learners from Ukraine. And also we had in other calls participants from other countries, but the numbers are not really high. But I hope that after this event, the numbers will increase because you will know more that such possibility exists. Okay, I will skip this part because I'd like to share some activities and good practices. So what we as a national agencies do, so we have in our national agency internal groups for each priority of Erasmus Plus program. So we have internal group for inclusion and diversity. I do not belong to that group, but my colleagues who work there, they really do many events, meetings, and they're trying to make this priority more popular and understandable. Also, we collect different data, we see the trends, we monitor how many mobilities with the students with and staff members with fewer opportunities do we have. Definitely, we do organize different events, and one of the last events was organized in a small town in Lithuania, and we spoke about the inclusion. We were sharing good practices. We do make different publications, we communicate on social media, and we provide regular updates on our webpage. So once again, I invite you to visit our Erasmus Plus page and find out more. What are our suggestions from national agencies to all of you? So you should define inclusion measures already in interinstitutional agreement. You can review what is written in the agreements which you have signed already. And we always suggest to include as much information as possible in order to in terms of the project. Also, our suggestion is if you still did not identify your target groups of participants with fewer opportunities, we encourage you to do so. So you can identify based on a program guide. You can use best practices from other countries. Here on the right side, you can see an example from one of our higher education institutions, which groups of participants are included. So you can more than welcome to include, take it as an example. And also, as we suggested to our institutions, and also same suggestion is for you to define internal selection procedures that ensure equal access to opportunities to current and prospective participants from all backgrounds. So you really need to see and include everyone. And also one suggestion, it is more probably applicable for bigger institutions. At least it worked out in Lithuania. So some biggest universities in Lithuania, they do have the role of inclusion officer. They have a special person appointed who works on policy development or on staff engagement, on communication, and so on. So that person is responsible to inform all the community and identify target groups as well. And also we suggest you to define strategies for communication. So how you gonna communicate, and do not forget to share best practices. So these were the basic suggestions, tips from our side. I wanted to share our perspective. And please remember that you can always contact your NEO, you can contact other partner institutions with whom you have agreements, because I think that European partners are really open and they are ready to help you, to guide you. So in case you have any doubts, you just ask.
Thank you very much, Inesa. That was really helpful and very interesting. And one of the important things you mentioned is that your institutions are preparing for covering such kind of inclusion and diversity costs way too early. So I would like to remind our beneficiaries in our Eastern Partnership region that you also need to be prepared well advanced before this mobility or any other projects would start. You need to have that selection criteria, defined communication strategies, etc., way too advanced before the beginning of the project in order to make eligible your participants, not only students or whoever you are teaching, but also to your staff. Make this program available. Should not be the last call, last minute request. It should be predefined, not only by the institutions in the program countries, but for you as well, in order to be able and eligible to send such impaired groups to European countries and give them opportunity to experience the internationalization and what the Europe is actually, and to do the same to host such beneficiaries in our countries. And as we see, there is a huge potential and huge room for that to actually use that opportunity. Opportunity is there. It needs more sharing of information, diving deep into that information, and actually to turn this knowledge into practical terms in order to make this possible for your institution and for your beneficiaries. Thank you very much, Inesa. And right now we are going to have 10 minutes break, and after that we will come back with a German NA who will be talking about implementing inclusion in Erasmus+, how inclusion standard works across actions, beneficiaries, and national context. And we will be talking about inclusion and diversity within cooperation partnership projects. That's very important and interesting. And right now we are going to have a 10 minutes virtual coffee break, as far as we don't have a chance to meet face to face. See you in 10 minutes. Good afternoon, everyone. I hope you can hear us. You had a good coffee break where you were sitting. Very well. As you know, based on our agenda, our next speakers are from German NA, who will be talking about implementing inclusion in Erasmus+, how inclusion standards work across actions, beneficiaries and national context. And our first speaker from German NA will be Michaela LANARO, Program Coordinator for International Credit Mobility. Michaela, the floor is yours.
Yes, hello from my side. Thank you so much for inviting us. I will also share my presentation. I already started it, but now I see yours. So
we'll put it down right now, and you can share it.
Can you see it?
Yeah,
yes,
we can see it now.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, then once again, I'm Michaela from the German NA. I'm responsible for the international credit mobility. Today I'm standing in for our inclusion officer, and I will share some perspectives from Germany. Thank you so much for inviting us to this very interesting format, and also to my colleagues from the other NAs for already sharing so many interesting information. I will tell you a bit about our national context in Germany. We actually have 4 different NAs for the 4 different sectors. We are part of the NA DAAD, which just focuses on higher education. And we are part of the German Academic Exchange Service, a much bigger organization who focuses on exchange for Germany. And in our NA, we're focusing on higher education. We have the 3 key actions, and I mainly focus on the individual mobility, the global one for key action 171, or also better known as the international credit mobility. I brought you some numbers from Germany. These are our top 10 partner countries in this selection round. As you can see, Ukraine and Georgia are our top performing countries this year, with the largest allocated budgets. And after this are the countries from a lot of countries from the Western Balkans and also from region 3 from the Southern Mediterranean. To focus a bit more on the ICM projects for this region, for region 2, with the different countries, I brought you here the projects that we had in starting from the new program generation from call 2022 until now. You see the largest part are for Ukraine and Georgia. The requests are very, very steady. Some are even increasing, and it's distributed over all the countries. So there is interest from German institutions to collaborate with all the countries in this region. But I think there is still some air left to improve it. Exactly. But today we want to focus on inclusion and diversity. So now let's have a look more in detail to the inclusion side of the things. I think my colleagues already explained very well about the European level, so I will skip this and focus more on our German perspective. We, as the German National Agency, have defined our own targets for few opportunities, and we have defined very clearly our own categories. And I just wanted to notice that we have put on a mandatory for all of these criteria, and also for the proof of eligibility for the top-ups. We wanted to set a low hurdle for it to make it very easy for the participants to self-identify for those top-ups. A bit more on our criteria. We had a lot of surveys and talks with the other organizations to identify which participant we should include in our few opportunities list. And for Germany, it is influenced by social and economic backgrounds. So we saw that the students we identified as few opportunities are students who are less mobile because of their financial constraints. And with the top-ups, we hope that it's a further motivation for them to also join the international mobilities and be more mobile. So our target groups are the participants with disabilities or chronic illnesses. They can receive top-ups but also request real cost support. The same is for participants with children. And then we introduced this program generation starting from 2021, new categories for Germany. And those are first generation students and also working students. And for Key Action 171, we also introduced for only incoming students an extra category, which is only optional. And those are like very largely set students with facing economic barriers. And the three categories that are mandatory, self-explanatory, and for the other two who are optional, the universities can decide if they opt in or if they opt out at the beginning of each call. And as proof of eligibility for working students, they don't have to bring any contracts in. We want it to be very easy for them to do it. So a self-declaration of the participants is enough for this proof. As you can see, we have some numbers here for the Key Action 131 for the inter-European one. So you can see how large the part of the few opportunities top-up is. And you can notice here there's a large gap between 2021 and 2022. The increase is quite a lot. And we can explain this because in 2021, the two categories for the students with working students and first generation students was still optional. After that, we tried to make it mandatory, and you see the increase is immediate. As for the ICM, we only have one closed finished program so far, so we only have reliable numbers for the call 2022. But as you can see, also compared to already good numbers for 131, where we now are at 42% with the international mobility, we are already at 52% of students with fewer opportunities. But the top-ups, like also my colleagues told you, is not the only thing that can help with inclusion. We also have the real cost support for the participants. And here you also see really quite a striking difference between the 2021 and 2022 calls. And this again is because we introduced the participant with children that they could also apply for the real cost starting from 2022. And as you can see, it was welcomed and received very well from the beginning. And we had a lot of requests for real cost support also from those categories. And to look a bit more into detail for just ICM, it's always a bit harder to organize real cost support in a global level, because you can imagine it's already complicated to organize it in Europe, but to do it with partner countries in the Pacific or Asia, where it's even more different, it's quite challenging. But still, I think those are quite good numbers. And please keep in mind the calls 2023 onwards are still open, so there could still be more participants requesting the real cost support. We included a link here to a really nice report from one of the participants from India, because I presented a lot of numbers, but we have to remember it's not only about numbers, it is about people. And if you have time, we share the presentation afterwards. Really go read the report from the professor from India, who has a disability from polio and was only able to come with the real cost support and all the support he received from the university. Is really quite well written. To go back to some numbers, as we can see here, like my colleagues, I brought some numbers between Germany and region 2. Like Marta already explained really well, the largest part comes from Ukraine because those are mandatory. All of the students are particularly in few opportunities, but also for Georgia, there is a really good percentage, and for Armenia, and I think we can still improve it for Moldova and Azerbaijan. I brought you a good practice example from one of our projects. This was a project proposal from this call from 2026, but the partnership between Trier University and Tbilisi State University is quite long-standing. But they even focus more, starting from 2022, on inclusion. And I think that's a really good example on how to communicate between partners. So before they started the project, before they submitted the proposal, they had really extensive discussions between the partners on how to support the disadvantaged students. And they found out that the Georgian context is really different from the German one. So most students from TSU come from university-educated families, so they would not receive the top-ups for the first-generation student. And also they are constrained because students cannot officially work in this context. So they would not be eligible for our group of top-up. So while talking, they defined a new priority group, and the new groups are low-income students and also internally displaced students from conflict regions. And so they can reach out to more students. They have active encouragement and outreach through these target groups. So I think this is a really good example on how two institutions can collaborate and find a way to really use the top-ups in a particularly good way. Look at the time, what we do in Germany about monitoring. We have different approaches. We did one student survey for the INA. We interviewed roughly 7,000 students who went abroad, and like 60% of them stated that without top-up funding, they would not have been able to afford to go abroad. I think this is really, really telling about how important top-ups are. And what we also do is survey and monitor our institutions. So we have regular surveys that we do with the institutions to see how they respond and what are the obstacles for the inclusion strategy, how they find the top-up categories, and so on. And then we also monitor always the numbers in our final reports, and also like the real cost applications. And then we do individual qualitative monitoring during our monitoring visits, who are also including topics about inclusion and diversity. Those are the measures about survey and monitoring from the INA. We also have a TCA online training series with different topics about diversity in dialogue, and the next one is scheduled in Frankfurt, Germany. Like our colleagues, we also have some flyers and other information material about this topic. And yeah, I included some other information here for information purposes and for your future reference. So we all know there are quite a lot of challenges for inclusive mobility, and also here some possible steps for more inclusivity and equality in the program. But yeah, I think I'm already a bit on the time, so I want to give the word to my colleague Katrin Winter, who also will tell you about the inclusion and diversity in the Key Action 2 projects.
Thank you very much, Michaela. Sorry.
Michaela, I hope you can hear me?
Yeah.
Yes, okay. Hi. Yes, thank you very much, and also for the kind invitation, Mariam, and for the interest of the round on in inclusion, diversity aspects in KA2 projects. Some general, first to say, I'm charged with intersectional tasks within our NA. So to say, I'm within the cooperation project area, including KA2 and KA3 project and Erasmus Mundus as well, and Germany. And I'm not so deep in the program management, but rather in kind of intersectional perspective. So I want to give you some general remarks in advance. The KA2 approach to inclusion is twofold, so to say. The projects can treat it as a topic. It can be a content of a project, the social participation and integration of marginalized people, for example. And it can also be a modality of carrying out a project. And for sure, both aspects are closely related to each other. In the first case, the second is obligatory, but also if the first case is not given in a project, it should be at least open to inclusion issues. One factor which can be a limiting one is the lump sum funding, which applies in most of the KA2 funding lines. With some exceptions, and the lump sum funding means that there is for sure no special top up for inclusion, but on the other hand, the project responsibles are free to bring in inclusion means. And they need not apply especially for it or report on that very in a detailed manner. And so it gives freedom, but there is no extra money for fostering the inclusion issues. On EU level, for sure, we have some regulations which are which go into this direction in the program guide, inclusion as an objective and evaluation criteria, but and also in terms of relevance, project design. It is mentioned as the other horizontal priorities are as well. And also in the guide for experts on quality assessment, this is always included. So on each level, inclusion is, as the other horizontal priorities are, is fostered on this level. And on national level, we promote this for sure. In our information and consultancy work, also concerns the website and everything, Also the webinars for applicants and the training for assessors, which we are conducting regularly for each funding line that we are offering. Next slide, please. And yeah, and everything in accordance with our national strategy for higher education, for sure, that you already mentioned, Michaela. Yes, one of the material we are providing to our different target groups is this fancy brochure published by 5 Saltos and referring to all the 4 horizontal priorities in the context of EU-funded projects. And this is this sentence is in there. European projects should be inclusive, accessible, and embrace diversity in all its forms. They should reach out to different people and recognize the diverse backgrounds and of participants as a valuable learning opportunity. It is important to foster an equitable and respectful environment in all projects. So what I said, it has to be thought about how to keep your project open, how to communicate it to all potential participants if they are if they have some barriers or not. And this brochure is linked here. You can look at it. It's 3 pages for inclusion and the others also for the other priorities. Another issue is the statistical one. I would like to have provided you with some numbers in the manner as Michaela did also, but we have a problem with the statistics and the dashboard numbers. We within KA2 there is the appliers have the choice if they are choosing one of the horizontal priorities or one of the sectoral priorities, and or more than one each. And there are additionally some in the cooperation projects, there are topics to be chosen. So I cannot show you a chart like I would like to do, but I can tell you that after topics, selected after topics from the European Results Platform, in cooperation partnerships, currently there are 13 ongoing projects coordinated by German higher education institutions with the inclusion topic they have chosen. Yeah, it's 13, and I on the next slide, Michaela, please. I want to show you 2 of them, 2 of the ongoing projects. Are the first ones here, educational robotics to support inclusive education in primary schools. Yeah, this title says a lot. And you can hear, you can have a look maybe with a glance at the time, can look at them at the links afterwards. And this is for school education, the robotics in school education, but it is a higher education project for developing this. And so to say this is, I think, a really nice example because one of the main project objectives is to promote an inclusive educational process. And the second example I want to show you, a report here briefly, is migration narratives in European media. Here, inclusion is thought in another way, other target groups here or other scope. Here is the representation of migration in visual media in the center of the project, and it aims to strengthen intercultural learning through critical thinking and media literacy. So I wanted to show you by that there are very different approaches and very different scopes and aims connected to the inclusion topic in the cooperation projects. And the third one is mentioned, is already completed in last year, but mentioned here because it is a kind of bridging between key action 1 and 2. Then it's involved students and sought to enable student mobility in line with the recommendations of the Erasmus Charter and the Commission priorities mentioned in the project title, and with the goal of reaching 50% mobility for European university alliances. This is the third project I wanted to show you. There are good websites behind the links in English language, and so I think that this can be a lecture for afterwards. This would be my contribution for today. Thank you
very much, Katrin. That has been really interesting. Katrin and Michaela, both of you, thank you very much. And Katrin mentioned it correctly, and that was very useful that you mentioned that in collaborative projects, there is no such thing as top up for the inclusion and diversity. If you are planning to, as a beneficiary, if you're planning to create a quality project and integrate one of the horizontal priority of the Erasmus Plus, which is inclusion and diversity, then you are responsible yourself to plan the budget accordingly. So you have to keep that in mind, that inclusion and inclusive groups and people with some disabilities might need different sort of financing than it would need just a random person who does not experience these generally recognized barriers to participate in the program. And Michaela also mentioned one of the important topics. I want to stress this out. This is important that sometimes there are discrepancies between how inclusion and diversity are recognized in the countries and how they can be aligned to one another. So while you are in this stage of creating the projects, that would be a good idea to review. For example, if Georgian participants are doing projects with German institutions and you already know your partners, it's a good idea to review not only the national context, how inclusion and inclusivity and diversity works, but to review the documents in the countries with whom you are doing your project. In this case, it would be in German case. To review better, to properly plan the actions, etc., etc. And eventually, of course, that ends up giving your project a positive result and higher score. It increases your competitiveness. That's a very useful point you made, Michaela. Right now, according to the schedule, we had a different activity, but because Mariana SARGSYAN, our colleague from Armenia, has a conference and she's limited in time, we want to switch activities, and we would like Mariana to talk about the inclusion and diversity within Armenian context. And that is important for other Region 2 countries because, like I mentioned at the beginning, that you are not collaborating only with program countries. You are creating consortiums within Erasmus Plus program within our neighbors and within Region 2. So that's very important to have information about their context as well. Mariana, please.
Yes, thank you. Can you hear me?
Can hear you, yes.
Okay, yes, thank you. Good afternoon, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to thank National Erasmus Office Georgia for the invitation to join this very important webinar on a very important topic on inclusion and diversity. Yes, today we are having a dissemination conference of the selected projects, capacity building projects under 2025 Erasmus Plus Call. And we also referred to the topic of inclusion because some of the topics targeted has their main activity and focus on inclusion as well. When we speak, in fact, about inclusion, sometimes there is this kind of misunderstanding or false interpretation within our stakeholders that inclusion is a separate objective of Erasmus Plus program, an additional requirement. Yes, there is this kind of false interpretation due to misunderstanding and not very well being aware of the Erasmus Plus principal priorities. But of course, inclusion is what makes Erasmus Plus meaningful. Without equal opportunities to participate, the program cannot fully achieve its mission of transforming education, empowering individuals, and strengthening our societies. And of course, from the perspective of Armenia, inclusion is also a relevant issue. First of all, we have the education development strategy until 2030 and the new law on higher education and science, and another law, youth in the field of youth, where inclusion is identified as one of the main principles, as one of the foundations of the strategies and policies in this field. And of course, inclusion in terms of Erasmus Plus should not be limited to mobility programs only. This refers to all stakeholders, NGOs, colleges, capacity building programs, actions as well, because inclusion is relevant for us in all of these aspects. And sometimes we have misunderstandings within the stakeholders of what is inclusion, what are the criteria of inclusion. Yes, what is classified as inclusion and what is not. So we are working specifically with newcomers, and we have implemented a series of webinars specifically for newcomers and consultations for newcomers, where we explicitly explain the objectives and the horizontal priorities of the Erasmus Plus program, and in detail explaining the context and the relevant documents that underlie each priority and horizontal priority. And we, of course, focus much on inclusion as well. What is the situation in Armenia in terms of mobility? There are many talented students and staff, lecturers, professors. They live in remote areas far away from the capital, where everything is happening and concentrated in the capital. And of course, youth organizations and colleges, on the other hand, there are many colleges and youth organizations which are spread all over the country in remote areas specifically, and access to information and international opportunities remains still limited for this category of participants. So again, our mission is to organize outreach campaigns and specifically focus on newcomers. And another problem that we are facing and we're reporting from colleagues as well is that students with disabilities, for instance, or living in remote areas or with different socioeconomic barriers, specifically young people and students, they do not consider Erasmus Plus a realistic opportunity for them. So this is a major issue for us that we're facing now. And we believe that specific targeted events and outreach campaigns should be organized in cooperation with higher education institutions, youth organizations, and colleges, and all the other stakeholders to increase the awareness about the program and help young people and students gain this understanding that Erasmus Plus is not a program for advantageous groups, for some specific groups, but it is an opportunity for everybody, and everyone should have the opportunity and should be provided with equal opportunity to participate in Erasmus Plus, be it an individual or be it an organization. But of course, awareness alone is not enough. The institutions also need to embed inclusion in their strategies, in their development strategies, and in their activities. This means providing accessible information to students, to young people, to all those groups who are interested to apply to Erasmus Plus. It means also transparent and fair selection processes, appropriate administrative procedures, and flexible implementation arrangements. And of course, continuous monitoring is also important to know how well inclusion is really implemented within the institutions, within institutional strategies. At the same time, I believe that usually the success of Erasmus Plus, we the success of participation, we tend to consider in numbers how many applications have been submitted, how many applications have been supported. But another evidence of success can be who are the participants, who benefited from the program, and to what extent the program was inclusive for our society, for our stakeholders. So this can be also one of the categories that we should consider how successful was our participation in each call. Because inclusion also contributes directly to the quality and sustainability of Erasmus Plus projects. After all, diverse participants bring diverse perspectives, innovative ideas, rich learning experiences, and inclusive projects create stronger partnerships, and they can generate wider societal impact as well. And so I think that today's topic is really very important, and these discussions should be continuous, and exchange of knowledge and experiences within Eastern Partnership, within NEOS, and collaboration with national agencies is really very important. And every small step that removes a barrier creates new opportunities for individuals and strengthens our societies. So that's why collaboration within Eastern Partnership, NEOS, and national agencies, higher education institutions, and all the other involved stakeholders is very important to understand that we are at the same page in our understanding of what is inclusion and whether we are maintaining all these principles of inclusion in our activities. So this is all on my side. Thank you very much for very interesting presentations. It was very useful for us. Yes, thank you. And I hope that this kind of discussions on inclusion will continue, and there will be other platforms to discuss this further. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mariana. And indeed, newcomers are considered one of the inclusive groups because they might need extra support to get integrated with the Erasmus Plus program. And right now we will continue as we had initial plan to have a Q&A session. And after that, we will move on to other Region 2 representatives from Moldova and Ukraine. Now we have Q&A. We are having it on VBox, right? Okay, you can ask questions in the chat section as well, meanwhile. And you can also name the speaker whose presentation was more relevant to you. So we will be addressing to this particular speaker. Well, there. So we had a few questions in the chat as well. We have a lot. Okay, what do we have here? Okay, hello, I have a question as a parent of a person with disabilities and as an advocate for the rights of persons and disabilities. I personally, along with other parents, am very interested in this program, especially mothers of persons with disabilities. Does this program also include information regarding parents and guardians of persons with disabilities? In other words, what kind of support will be available for them? For example, if a single parent wants to enroll in a master's degree program, will there be a kind of support available for them? For instance, a parent who is raising a young child on the autism spectrum and may need additional support in order to continue their education. I guess it is a two-part question. Do we have a volunteer who would address to that question? One thing what we can tell you from Erasmus Plus perspective, for example, if your child is participating is in the Erasmus Plus program, the guardians and accompanying persons can be reimbursed according to the predefined costs. And when it comes to mothers, that would be a very interesting from NA perspectives. Do you have any experience that you recognized a mother, single mother, who has a child with autistic spectrum to consider as a member of inclusive groups? Anyone? Any NA is willing to join on this?
I can elaborate from Lithuanian
Please.
perspectives. Definitely, many universities and colleges in Lithuania, they have identified that the moms or just single parents, they are eligible to receive top-ups. And also if any additional support is needed, for example, a bigger apartment or special equipment in the apartment, so it can be also supported by the real costs.
Therefore, based on Lithuanian example, this can be reimbursed as an extra need. If any other NA wants to address this, otherwise we will move on to the next question. We will try to finalize the questions in the chat section. Well, another question comes from schools, which asks if they can participate in the Erasmus Plus projects. Yes, you can participate in, but not as coordinators. You can participate as partners in various calls, and you can also participate in the calls that are announced for other sectors. For example, higher education might integrate you in their projects if the context of the project allows this, but this is not related to inclusivity at the moment. We conduct meetings and consultations with that matter. You can get in touch with us if you have technical questions regarding Erasmus. Okay. Do we have any questions? Meanwhile, you can also write your question there. It is anonymous. You can write the questions, whatever you have. Don't be shy. Because this is the time you can ask these questions to national agencies, because you won't be able to meet them every day. So that's. I'm sorry
for interrupting.
Yeah.
The QR code the same way, and also the same code that we previously used. Feel free to use that one.
How do you determine the fewer opportunities? Well, our NA colleagues already discussed this very in detail. And you will be shared the presentations to learn more. Besides, feel free to visit the links and guidelines that has been uploaded in the presentations, which describe even more in detail what is inclusivity, what are the guidelines regarding evaluation, identifying and covering their costs, etc. You can also find these details there. Who is responsible to inform the host institution about the disability? Like it was mentioned, our colleagues, this needs to be planned in advance. You need to identify the inclusive groups and their potential participation in Erasmus Plus programs in advance. You need to plan it properly, like you would plan any other business. It should not be the last minute call. You should know in advance. You have to have an identification strategy. How do you identify inclusive groups? And you have to communicate this with your partner institutions, whatever country you are collaborating with. We invited Lithuania, Spain, and Germany, but it applies to every other country whichever is implementing the Erasmus Plus program. You need to plan in advance everything accordingly, and you need to communicate this with the host institution. And host institution will be, as a coordinator, especially for the mobility projects, will be accordingly so to speak, consider your needs if it is possible within particular call. Well, the first question which we have on the dashboard is, may I ask whether participants will receive a certification of participation? Well, yeah, speakers will get the certification of participation, attendees will get the certification of attendance. Will you share today's conference presentation, and will you provide links for materials via email? Of course, on Monday, we will be able to share the presentations, and all the links are included there. I wonder, don't you have questions regarding the inclusive and inclusivity and diversification within Erasmus Plus programs that oftentimes that we discuss about inclusion and diversification? The first thing that comes to beneficiaries' minds is that they are talking about inclusion and diversity as a disability, and this is not the only thing. If having infrastructure for disabled people is not enough inclusivity. Inclusion and diversity is a very wide topic, and it is not well exercised, so to speak, within Erasmus Plus program, at least from the partner country perspective. Any more questions? Please, questions are anonymous. You can ask anything related to this topic. Please, Svitlana.
Hello, dear colleagues. Thank you very much indeed for very really useful presentations with very practical lines for our universities and other organizations on inclusivity. Absolutely very much appreciated, as well all your support. I will say a few words later on the specifics of Ukraine, but at the moment I have the question to our colleagues from the national agencies on the, for example, of course, in the case of Ukraine, you received the specific regulation, but even like before war, before the martial law in Ukraine, what exactly, I don't know, the certificate or the document was required and is required maybe for other countries to from the persons who participated in the mobility, confirming that they are from the few opportunities target audience. Is there any documents which were required or is required to confirm their status? Just I'm asking because I remember we had a few cases like this when also national agencies applies to us that we should confirm that such kinds of students were referred to the inclusive target audience. So very much appreciate if everything is needed, like, I don't know, formally or just something like that. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Svitlana.
Okay, so maybe I'll start. So as in Lithuania, every institution can decide which document should be presented. So there are cases that some universities are not even asking for any proof. The only one proof is an email from partner institution confirming that that particular person is belonging to the group of people with fewer opportunities. If there is a case with the real costs, then we are asking for all additional documents confirming that there is a need for that person to receive such, let's say, additional funding. So it is so. Some universities are asking only for self-declaration from those students or staff members, but I would say that in terms of top-ups, only a confirmation from partner university is enough for majority of institutions.
Thank you very much, Inesa. Any more questions? Otherwise, we will move to the next part. Okay, we will have third question. Yeah, we will be sharing materials on Monday, where you can have an access to all the links, guidelines, metrics, etc. There has been shared very useful links by our NA colleagues. Any more questions? You can also raise a hand, and you can ask a question verbally if you prefer so. If not, then additional question in the chat. I'm a founder of a cybersecurity and education initiative. I currently live and work in Azerbaijan, but I'm planning to register my company in Estonia. If the company is legally registered in Estonia and obtains an OID, can I participate in Erasmus Plus as a European partner, even though I am personally based in Azerbaijan? Well, that's an interesting question. If your operations is in Estonia, I mean, even if you are working remotely, it should not matter, as long as operations happen in Estonia from the Estonian perspective. If other NA colleagues have a comment on this, you are more than welcome to comment on this, but it is less about inclusivity, but about the eligibility. Do we have any other question?
Yes, sorry.
Please.
Hanna from Ukraine. Sorry, did you record this session? Because I had no time and I couldn't join from the very beginning. And if so, would you be so kind to share the recording along with presentations you promised to send on Monday?
Yes. We will be uploading this presentation on our channels, and afterwards we will be sharing this along the presentation slides as well.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else related to inclusivity? Otherwise, where?
Does the top-up have to be communicated before the interinstitutional agreement is set up, or can we add students with disabilities, for example, later on?
That's a very technical question. Like our colleagues mentioned that these activities and budgets are planned in advance, so they should be identified in advance. I would have these specific questions with Inesa one more time. Inesa, please, is it possible to reimburse top-ups in the implementation process? We cannot hear you. Your microphone is muted.
Marta, can you just turn off your... Okay, sorry, because I was not able to hear everything correctly. So I'll try to answer from our perspective. The groups can be updated anytime from our perspective. And I think so that it mainly depends on communication between partner institutions. But it is quite often happening in Lithuania that institutions just review which groups they have, and they just simply correct and add, delete, and so on. We had one case with one college in Lithuania. They have added that students who are working, they also belong to the group of people with fewer opportunities. And then they realized that students are getting a special permission of individual work, and they were presenting that document asking to give a top-up as well going on Erasmus. So they were like kind of faking the system and making everything not in a good way, let's say. So the institution decided to correct that group. They still have that group of people, students who are working, but they included a remark that those who are working for the last 6 months. So you see, it is kind of flexible from our perspective. I don't know how it is in other countries. So maybe colleagues, you can share as well.
If Marta, can you address to that question? If you have cases when you pay top-ups during the implementation process?
Yeah, it's true. We have the same situation, although things have to be planned as much in the beginning. What it's true is that the universities don't have the real exact numbers or how many people with fewer opportunities are going to apply to the offer proposals. So what the universities do when they present the application to the national agency, they just give an estimation of fewer opportunities, participants that they estimate for that project. However, if they are up or they are higher or they get down, they always have time to add some. They have to have the budget allocated, but they could ask for more opportunities, or even if they have less opportunities, participant asking for the top-ups, they can move this budget to another activity.
Thank you.
There's quite a flexibility.
Thank you very much. But you can imagine beneficiaries that as the number of inclusive groups might increase, there can be less room for covering the top-ups in the implementation process. It's not planned in advance. So it's a better idea to have everything in planned everything in advance. Any more questions? Otherwise, we will move on to the next session, which is hearing the perspectives of national Erasmus Plus offices in Moldova and Ukraine. I'd like to invite Claudia MELINTE from Moldova, coordinator for the National Erasmus Plus office in Moldova, who will be providing some information regarding inclusivity from Moldovan perspective. Claudia, if you are in the call, I cannot see everyone at the moment.
Thank you, Mariam. And Thank you for the organization of this event. I think it is very important topic to discuss. And thank you also for our colleague from these three national agencies, from Michaela and Katrin from DAAD, Ines from Lithuania, and Marta from Spain, because it is indeed very interesting, not only for participants, but also for the National Erasmus offices, at least in Moldova, I would like to tell you. So again, thank you. About Moldovan situation, I will tell you very shortly because frankly speaking, we don't have a really statistical data, consolidated data by country or by host institution, even by our institution about the number of staff or students who have received this type of support. But I would like to start with the Moldovan legislation on this in this area. It's clear that Moldova has an established legislative framework addressing national inclusion policies, but we have not a standalone national inclusion strategy, it's true. So I'd like to recommend just for information, if you want to understand how it is organized in Moldova, which is the national inclusion policy, I would recommend to consult the Moldova country profile in the Euridis platform. For example, if you want, I can even show you this page. This platform includes the comparative characteristic of 43 countries, European countries, and including Moldova, Georgia, and Ukraine on this topic, but also on various other topics. But inclusion is developed on this Euridis platform. So I recommend you strongly this source for information. With regard to the experience of Moldovan higher education institution, I'd like to tell you that indeed there are an established practice in supporting disadvantaged students participating in Erasmus Plus mobility. We used to organize in our National Erasmus Office in Moldova the roundtable with our university, with the International Relation offices, and even we discussed with even yesterday about because of your event also. And the university tell me that the type of support available for different type of disadvantaged people and the documentation which is required for students or for staff to access this support is very different from one country to another one, and also from one hosted institution to another one. So therefore, our university used to adapt their approach to the specific circumstances of each individual case, for each host institution, for each country, for each individual situation of the student or maybe for of the staff. It is also, which they mentioned, so the number of these disadvantaged students who receive this top-up is very much increased during the last years, maybe during the last year, 25. So, but maybe this is all with all the information which I can to tell you, because we in Moldova and at the level of the national office, we have not any specific data. And maybe my question for the national agency, with the many thanks to them to providing this important information and very interesting information, is if, for example, if we could share this information with our university, and how maybe national offices or how our higher education institution could receive this information about the number of real students and staff who receive this support. But I suppose it is not very simple, like with all statistical data in the Erasmus. But if you have some information, I will be very happy to hear it. So thank you very much for inviting us. And I think this discussion is very useful. And I think we'll also organize the events dedicated to this important topic in Moldova. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Claudia. And as according to the Claudia, the specifics, how inclusion and diversity is perceived in a certain country and needs to be addressed in a certain project can be different from country to country. So once again, it is really important to discuss with your partners when you're creating the consortiums to agree on the common grounds, how you're covering this inclusion and diversity topics within your projects. And I guess our NAs who we are representing today, they shared this statistical data for Region 2. So we'll be sharing those presentations and you can have an access to them. Claudia, and with regard to whole data, I'm not sure if they have the data worldwide, how they are covering or supporting the inclusion and diversity. Maybe if you have such kind of data or willing to share, yeah, we would be really happy to see it after the event. And now I'd like to invite Svitlana SHYTIKOVA from Ukraine, coordinator for the National Erasmus Plus Office in Ukraine. Svitlana, please, floor is yours.
Can you see my presentation?
Yes, we can see your presentation and we can hear you.
Great. Great. I will be not talking about all the slides, but we have prepared it just for the general idea of how Ukraine is working on the inclusion and diversity. And I really appreciate the colleagues and partners from the national agencies for the strong support to Ukraine and Ukrainians, especially in these hard times. And today we have the day of mourning due to the very strong attack yesterday of Ukraine and a lot of losses as well. And actually it also determines some specifics of Ukraine, which we really don't want to have, believe us. We would prefer to have and enjoy a normal Erasmus for all these years we lost due to the brutal invasion of Russia. But talking about the topics and exactly like within Ukraine, we have the possibility to participate in 40 calls for proposals and cooperating actively within them with the countries around the world. But specifically, we have the top 3 countries where we have the majority of projects, and these countries are Germany, Italy, and Spain. So the others also have the active participation with Ukraine, And in fact, the openness of the mobility actions and the specific measures for Ukraine provided the possibility to enroll more students and staff, and as well as from the school sector, vet sector, and youth sector into the mobility. Talking about the possibility to happen, as well as the focus of some projects, as the European Commission provided and put the Ukraine as a priority for Erasmus+, and the specific actions has been funded additionally. And we appreciate that the agency really supported and provided the funding to many cooperation partnership projects, which also were, some of them were focused into the inclusion and diversity issues. And all in all, if we count the general statistics of participation of Ukraine for the last 11 years, I mark 11 because we just got also the information about Erasmus Mundus scholarship for 2026 call. Others are not yet available, but still we consider it is important also to put the focus on the 11 years support from the European Commission and with participation of our and as well as active cooperation with our partners from EU member states and other countries associated to the program, as well as in the cooperation projects or capacity building projects with our colleagues from the Eastern neighborhood region, as well as other regions of the world. And thus the participation in this projects also made possible to apply some specific measures for Ukraine during martial law, and we provided additional information for our partners, international partners, as well as for our Ukrainian partners working in all program fields, the information and resources on how to apply for these specific measures, as well as to our international partners, how to implement the projects in Ukraine during martial law and after brutal invasion. And working closely with our partners from the Ministry of Education and Science, inclusion has become also among the priority for the projects, capacity building projects in particular in higher education, as well as in vocational education and training, and in addition also for youth and sport. Thus, we also have funded several projects on this topic, and it becomes also the, let's call it the overall or overarching priority in all the projects, as well as in all in strategic documents of Ukraine. And if we talk about the national level, of course, working in terms of the negotiation process to join the European Union, we've got a lot of home task to do, and inclusion and diversity is among this task as well. And thus the inclusive strategy is already developed in Ukraine, but also the part of the focus on inclusion and diversity is within the strategy of higher education and the laws of all the sectors, like law on education, higher education, vet, adults education, as well as the youth and sport. So thus top up to this global strategy, I mean general strategy on inclusion. And also it is mentioned in terms of the roadmap and enlargement reports, which we have provided to the European Commission. Just talking about the opportunities and the focus of what the institutional priorities for inclusive strategies were put up by our different universities. Of course, they had put in focus and consider the terminology and priorities for specific supports exactly based on the program guides or the European strategies, including the European strategies of on inclusion and diversity, but also added some national specifics. And of course, majority of these specifics, unfortunately, are linked to the consequences, to the challenges and consequences of the war. And thus, in fact, it leads to the discussion with the European Commission, and also then later the specific guidelines for the national agencies to consider Ukrainians as the inclusive target audience in general, because again, everybody has the direct or indirect influence and impacts on the war consequences, and that's why it was the decision to provide, where possible, these top-ups to Ukrainians who are benefiting from the, who applies for mobility projects, especially in higher education. And thus, again, within the work on the relevant competencies, on the universal programs, on the methodological supports, as well as the infrastructures, were in focus of the projects as well funded by the European Commission within Erasmus Plus, and not only in mobility, but also in other actions. And in this case as well, it is important to mention that at the level of the First Lady of Ukraine, as well as the Ministry of Education and Science, there has been a lot of, let's call it experiments as they are provided, but also the work with the inclusive strategies and as well as inclusive infrastructures. And we have got the majority of terminology already linked to the like without barriers, people without barriers, or just the working, as we call it, bezbarierность. And in terms of the projects where the partners from Ukraine applied and work mostly in terms of the inclusivity, we would like to focus and provide that, again, it has been a part through all the types of the possibilities where the Ukrainian universities and other organizations could link and include the elements of the inclusive priority, and to cover and to provide the larger impact, a larger access to different target groups. And it refers to the projects in mobility, creating the coils as well as the professional development for the teachers and teaching and learning excellence, where there has been becomes the modules how to teach inclusive target audience, as well as the resources have been developed with this universal part taken into consideration, and other things which have become, again, the priority for our participants to benefit in terms to put in mind during the implementation of the projects. And of course, the youth or just our Erasmus Students Network have become very active in terms of the work with the inclusive target audience in particular, and performed different events, and they also put in focus the possibility to help the target audience, which requires a lot of support, participating either abroad or in Ukraine. And of course, we have unfortunately the disbalance of the incoming students to Ukraine and staff due to the safety issues, as well as the possibility to receive the insurance in the country where the war is happening. And that's also become the challenge on that area. But we have several also examples which are working in the inclusive and diversity, and they are devoted to both like the barriers, the different types of the definitions mentioned in the program guide on the inclusiveness. And in particular, also there are the projects on the teaching and learning, on the infrastructures, on the platforms, but also in terms of the LGBT plus community, where we have the projects in Jean Monnet and in youth actions and conversion partnership, but also in other things. So, and all details are available within the database we have provided. And I would like to highlight that in this link, we have both the analytics and also the results. We collect results from mostly about the projects, including mobility projects, at the Erasmus Plus project results platform, where some details are available, and you are encouraged to have a look into it, because it could give you not only the idea what projects were funded, but also some of their useful resources which are open, as well as in this area of inclusion, and also the ideas or inspiration for future cooperation. And just a few examples of the resources on the inclusive education and inclusive strategy as well. And also we did the translation into Ukrainian of the latest communiqué, of course, Rome communiqué, but also Tirana communiqué, where there would be definitions of the inclusion as well. And thus we also have the higher education terminology glossary we did for Ukraine, and also working with our Ministry of Education and Science and other committees working in the negotiation process of Ukraine joining EU, where there would be more happening on the inclusion and diversity at different levels. And the institutional level is also in the hands of our organizations who are currently have put a lot of focus on it. And we hope that we will finalize all the necessary procedures in terms of the also transformation into the new status of participation of Ukraine in Erasmus Plus later on in the later stage, whenever we are going to be ready for that. Thanks again a lot for all the cooperation supports, and we hope that there would be a possibility to return back to the normal Erasmus very soon. Thanks a lot.
Thank you very much, Svitlana, and of course, condolences on the recent attack to civilians by Russians. That has been very unfortunate and sad news indeed. Ukrainian situation, of course, changed also the priorities for the other Region 2 countries. For example, in the setting collaborative projects, you might see that one of the priorities and objectives of the calls are integration of migrants. In addition to horizontal priorities, of course. So that topic also became very important after Ukrainian situation. Thank you once again for your involvement. And now I'd like to move to the interactive activity, which is gonna, so to speak, evaluate what we've learned today and how useful was it for our understanding of inclusion and diversity. Mariam, please share the VWOX. The principle is the same. You need to scan the QR code, or on VWOX app platform, you need to enter the ID, and you can do it from your computer. However, it's more comfortable for you. The QR code remains there throughout the session. So,
posted the website link in the chat, so you can copy and paste. They're separately posted, and also the ID to the meeting. So whichever works for you.
Thank you. We can start. Okay, for now we have 5 participants. You are 40 in the, no, not 40, 47 in the chat section. So, Pil, please scan the QR code and join us on our interactive action. We have only a couple of questions to little bit wake up from the long discussion and maybe a bit evaluate what we've understand from today's event. The number 1 question is, which of the following are recognized as participation barriers under the Erasmus Plus inclusion and diversity strategy? You can select all that apply. No, you can select several answers, of course. The barriers can be disabilities, in your opinion, can be disabilities, health problems, educational barriers, cultural differences, language proficiency, tests only, previous Erasmus Plus participation only. What can be the barrier for participating in the Erasmus Plus program? Yeah, that's correct. Language proficiency is not the only barrier, and previously being the participant of Erasmus Plus program is not certainly a barrier. You can participate several times as long as you are not exceeding the predefined time frame. Well, disabilities, of course, health problems, educational barriers, cultural differences.
Next question.
Other participants can also scan the QR code and join us during the process. Can you give us an example of economic barrier? What do you think can be considered as an economic barrier for participating in the Erasmus Plus program? You can enter whatever you think is the economic barrier. You can see the results if there are any as well.
Low income is what we see.
That's right.
Fair enough.
Yeah, unemployment of the parents. Yeah, that's more, that's a social barrier as well.
You should also be able to put a few answers in there.
Yeah, you
not
can.
Just one.
Yeah.
It should allow you that.
Absence of funds, so sure. Barriers to market entry. Market entry, how do you think it's a barrier for participating in the Erasmus Plus program?
Is this about entering the job market, I'm guessing?
Whoever wrote that answer can elaborate if they want to.
Low economic background, okay. Absence of funds. High cost of visa.
High cost of visa.
Unemployment, economic struggles. I think we have a hand. Question.
From whom?
Or maybe it was a mistake.
Okay. Absence of funds, low economic background, unemployment of parents, low income. Okay. Mostly correct.
Okay.
Next. What do you think is a geographical barrier within Erasmus Plus program? That's right, rural region. Living in the rural region and not having access to proper infrastructure or whatever can be a barrier.
And also, once again, for those of you who haven't joined us yet, I know it's hard after sitting for so long and being online especially, but you can still scan the code and join our little trivia here. Or you can also visit the website directly.
Yeah, living in a war zone.
Living in a war zone, yes. Less serviced areas. Yeah. Living in remote areas, islands, for example.
Yeah, that's correct.
Yeah.
That's correct. We can move on to the next question. This is very obvious.
Anything rural.
Anything remote, difficult.
That's a very fair and correct answer. Next one. Social barriers.
Yeah, social barriers. What are social barriers within the Erasmus Plus program? IDP. Can you elaborate on this? IDP? Because this abbreviation can mean different things in different field.
Is it
other answers?
I think it's displaced people.
Single parent can be.
Okay.
Having a sense of not belonging is also inclusive, belongs to inclusive and diversification. Cultural differences, yes.
Yes.
Stereotypes, yes.
Dmytro Treskin wrote internally displaced people, yes, IDP.
Okay, thank you.
Slightly different from
minorities, yes. Correct. Yeah, that's also obvious. We can move on to the next question. That's very good that we have so many vulnerable groups suffering from discrimination. Yes, of course. For example, Roma population. That's right.
Okay, the next question is...
What is the main purpose of the preparatory visits in Erasmus Plus program? To identify participants' needs, assess accessibility, reduce risks, and prepare successful mobility. B. To evaluate participants after the mobility has finished. C. To increase the number of project partners only. D. To provide language certificates before departure. What do you think?
Let's see how well they understand. Let's see. Yeah. I'm not showing the answer just yet.
Yeah.
Okay. Most of our participants also answered. Okay, let's see.
Yeah, sure. Oh, yeah, it was very obvious, of course. Next question.
Fair enough. Okay.
Okay, which combination of support best reflects the Erasmus Plus inclusion and diversity strategy? Which combination of support? So, A, financial support only. B, financial support plus outreach, preparation, mentoring, personalized support, accessible logistics, language support, and follow-up. C, financial support plus academic assessment and final certifications only. D, financial support plus visa assistance and an accommodation booking only. What do you think is the best combination for successfully deploying inclusion and diversity strategy within your projects?
Okay, this is the type of question where you just choose the longest answer.
Well, it's kind of obvious
yes.
as well. Do we have another question?
Actually, we have a few more.
Yeah, please, let's show them. According to the Erasmus Plus International Credit Mobility ICM Handbook, what additional financial support may be available to participants with fewer opportunities? Participants. Here, we don't have information on who are the participants. They can be staff or they can be students. The option A, top-up grants and inclusion support based on real costs. B, a guaranteed full scholarship for all participants. C, free tuition and at the host institution only. A one-time travel bonus for every participant. What do you think is the available funding opportunity according to International Credit Mobility Handbook? By the way, I would also encourage you, especially higher education institutions, to get acquainted very well to that guidebook. Of course, this guidebook is for the program country representatives because they are implementing those projects, but because you are equal participants of those projects and you are equally involved in that project, other than coordination, then it is also our partner country beneficiary interests to have this information. A guaranteed full scholarship is not guaranteed full scholarship. All scholarships are not 100% guaranteed. There is always available information in advance, how much is funded, etc., but there is no guaranteed fund. The correct answer is A, top-up grant and inclusion support based on real cost, top-up for students and real cost for staff, as Inesa from Lithuanian NA explained in her presentation. Next question. We can go to last question, actually.
The last one? Okay, yes. Let's skip those. And
why is organizational capacity building important for inclusion in Erasmus Plus projects? Option A, it increases funding allocation for each project. B, it ensures organizations have the knowledge, skills, and structure to identify barriers and support participants effectively. C, it replaces the need for participant supporting measures, and it reduces the number of required project partners. what do you think is the capacity building for the participant organizations is important for inclusion and diversity? In your opinion? We can see gradually the answers.
All right, just 1 second. Svitlana also shared something in our group chat. I believe it is the link to the handbook.
Yeah, of course, that's the correct answer. B. It ensures organization has the knowledge, guidance, skills to the staff and to participants, mobility participants as well, to ensure the proper implementation of the inclusion and diversity strategy within Erasmus Plus programs. I guess that has been all for today. I would like to thank you everyone for your contributions. Especially I would like to thank the colleagues from program countries from Spain, from Germany, and from Lithuania. There has been quite intense preparatory stage, and those people put a lot of time, effort for you to share with you the necessary information in terms of inclusion and diversity within Erasmus Plus program. I also would like thank you, National Erasmus Plus offices within our region, and I would like to encourage you to collaborate more better with in the first place within our region, and of course then with stronger cooperation to continue searching for other funding opportunities, whether in decentralized or centralized actions. Thank you very much for your participation. We hope that it has been useful for you and you will include more inclusivity and diversification within your projects, whether it's mobility or collaborative projects within Erasmus Plus program. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Good day.
Thank you. Have a nice and peaceful day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, Svitlana.